Tonight, I want to talk to you about responsibility and ownership, and how you can't have freedom without some form of ownership. For example, if you're on public transportation, you can't just go somewhere anytime you want. You have to confide to the schedules of the bus system. You can't have freedom without ownership. Let's talk about it. If you truly want to be free, you have to take care or take control of your personal debt. Um, America is seeing a issue where China is calling in on the the bonds, the IOUs, and whatever else they might be holding against the United States federal government, where we essentially don't own the land that we call home. So I guess what I'm saying is we kind of need to take care of our personal debt to free up what we have. Because like it or not, China is buying up farmland in the Midwest as fast as they can. And we really can't stop them because we basically the bulk of our federal deficit belongs to China. Not a very good position to be in at all. Okay. On the front of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, the mainstream press that has been bought off by the mob that we call the federal government is trying to convince people that the war is going in the favor of Ukraine. We know that to be false just by the fact that Ukraine doesn't have the soldiers to fight the war. They're trying to conscript Ukrainian citizens that have vacated Ukraine under refugee status from other countries. Poland has since told Ukraine to go fuck themselves. Good for Poland. Germany, Norway, and Italy have followed suit. However, Austria has told Ukraine that they would send back the fighting age males that are claiming refugee status so they can continue this laundering operation for the Allied forces. It's a big scam. Further corruption seen by the Democrat Party is the border crisis, I should qualify that, because it's not a crisis if you actually orchestrated the major influx of illegal immigrants into the southern border for the purposes of child sex trafficking, which is exactly what is happening on the southern border. When I was working for the Border Patrol up here in the Midwest, or up here in the Northwest, we were constantly hearing about the horror stories that were going on the southern border, and how the Border Patrol couldn't do anything about it because they had no support from the federal government. So that's really what we're going to be talking about. First off, one thing that people don't seem to understand is, yes, the debt that the federal government makes on behalf of the American people is and should be considered our personal debt. However, because we have no control over that debt, we have to be very careful as to who we put in charge and whether or not we allow them to live. It is not a situation where we should just let these crimes go unpunished. We need to actually stand our ground and say, no, you're not going to be lining your pockets with the blood of our children. Basically, if they instate a draft for the war that the Democrats started, by the way, libtards, this is exactly why we have a Second Amendment. If they start a draft for the war that the Democrats started, when or if they come for your children, you should be willing to stand your ground and kill anything that comes through your front door. The federal government is the enemy. That's all there is to it. Please note that there is no talk of this generation of Congress not instating a draft. Nobody has actually said it's not on the table. Yes, we have a lot of Gen Zers that are saying flat out, we won't go. Well, there's a bit of an issue there, and I've already talked about that in previous issues. And that's basically that there is no choice. You're an American citizen. You're of age to go.
You're a cattle father.
And you are cannon fodder. When you are captured, and you will be captured, I also spent time as a United States Marshal, and trust me when I say the detention enforcement agents of the United States Marshal Service are probably the best bloodhounds you'll ever meet. They start out by tracking your banking, where you are buying stuff. When that goes cold, they send people to that last location. And I trust me when I say within the next 24 hours of them actually locating your general area, they can locate you within the next 30 seconds of that time. It might be through a phone call that you made. It might be through facial recognition from the countless publicly run security cameras throughout the city. It might be through your friend who you thought was a friend, flat out telling him that, yeah, they saw you, but you will be caught. Once you are caught, you go to the judge, who, by the way, will probably be a George Soros funded election, who is very pro let's do what the globalist agenda is. And right now that is fighting this war. So you will be sentenced to basic training, maybe advanced training, depending on what they need you for. Then you will be shipped off to whatever combat zone you are going to be needed in. But the point is, you will not have a choice. I am adamant that that is the way it will happen. And for all you libtards out there that actually believe that you have a right to say no, your rights died the moment you were born. You are an American. If you are not defending this country, if you are burning the flag out of protest for anything, you are already a traitor to this country. And nobody will really miss you when you don't come home. So there is that. It's getting real out there. We are having more and more chatter from even the Eastern Bloc, where talk of a possible nuclear strike is more and more on the table. We are already in World War III. Whether or not you want to admit it or not, it really doesn't matter. The fact is that this has been a long time coming. And people that are not even elected by the populace are running the show. This theater of freedom is really just that, is theater. As I said in the last episode, if you clock in to a job, if you are required to be somewhere for a set amount of time, and yet that income that is generated from that sacrifice is not enough to make you or push you ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the definition of slavery. And that's what they've wanted on the global scale, basically since the 70s. Some of you may be old enough to remember that in the 70s, the globalists started pushing a narrative that the human population is the greatest form of pollution on the earth. So it shouldn't be surprising to anybody damn it. It just randomly ended. It should not be surprising to anybody that the globalists are pushing an agenda to a cultural contamination, which is wokeism. It shouldn't be surprising to anybody that part of that wokeism is in enforcing and even promoting homosexuality, because they want to bring down the population numbers to manageable levels according to what was once known as Agenda 21. Now it's Agenda 3030. Well, it is looking that way. They are working in tandem with each other. If you pay attention to the migration patterns of these illegals across the world, it is not just America that is being invaded by these third world occupants. It is also Germany. It is also Italy, Japan, Canada. And there's a lot of literature talking about, or from the UN, talking about the Great Migration. It's part of the Great Reset that the World Economic Forum is always talking about. Basically, what their goal is for this repopulation or redistribution of humans is to keep you all in controlled areas so you can't mount a resistance. I know. Totally, you're nothing but a conspiracy theorist. Am I? Just look around and use some common sense. It's not that difficult to figure out. Now, let me ask you something. How many people out there, and let me know in the chat, have heard rhetoric about Vladimir Putin being dead? Okay, it's kind of comical that the leftist mainstream media is constantly throwing this out there, that there's a body double in his place. Okay. Well, let me submit this to you. The way the Russian government works, there wouldn't be a body double. Okay. They would be announcing it to the world almost with megaphones that Vladimir Putin is dead. they'd have a fake election, and they'd put somebody in there that was actually controllable, like Joe Biden. And part of the problem is that the oligarchs of Russia cannot control Vladimir Putin. The oligarchs of the UN cannot control Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is his own man, and he actually takes a lot of pride in the fact that he will not let these globalists control or take his country. His popularity is so dense in Russia that they just keep electing him. He's not a dictator. He's elected by popular demand. And that scares, and that really does scare the left, particularly in America. Because for the first time in the history of the world, there's actually a legitimate democracy. And it's not America. They want to keep on with the statement that that Russia is communist. No, Russia hasn't been communist since the fall of the Berlin Wall. And that's actually kind of funny because even, what was his name? Gorbachev. Even with Gorbachev in power, the USSR was failing. They didn't have enough money to feed their people. They didn't have enough resources to fight any war that they might have engaged in. So I can't remember what his first name was, but Gorbachev, yeah, Nikolai Gorbachev was posing reform of the government in order to stay afloat. And his proposals were capitalism. Just like China, that has a semi-capitalistic society, which is how they actually stay afloat. They encourage innovation. They encourage the entrepreneur. They just tax the hell out of them. And that's exactly what the Soviet Union was doing toward the end of the Soviet Union. The people saw this. They saw that that they were actually being encouraged to be capitalistic, and yet at the same time, the government was extorting more and more taxes from them. And that's actually where the fall of communism in Russia actually happened. It wasn't that all of a sudden the government just decided to become a democracy. It was that the people refused to allow this government to exist anymore. And I don't think that could be stressed any more than that. Pope John Paul II made a very bold statement toward the end of his life. He said, Never forget that no matter how tyrannical the government that you might be a part of might be, never forget that there is no such thing as a popular government. And he was absolutely right. Because it's up to the people to make the changes of the government. The people that are outside the government, not the elected officials. One of the reasons that America's electoral system is so corrupt is because somewhere along the line, the people allowed the government to take control over it. There's a contradiction of interest. There's a conflict of interest with any government taking control of an election that will forge the future of that government. Because with government control of the election, there is no guarantee that the people actually have a voice. The only true democracy that has ever actually worked in this world flies a red, white, and blue flag. And it's not America. Just think about that. Now, I went on and touched on some of the problems with the southern border. Well, we've known for some time that the Democrat Party is the party of slavery. They always have been. Ever since the founding of the Democrat Party, Andrew Jackson had been advocating for slavery. The left, who wanted to take Andrew Jackson's face off a $20 bill, doesn't acknowledge that this was the founder of the Democrat Party. But at the same time, just read a history book. Why I bring up Jackson is because the Democrat Party has never changed. They have always and always will be the party of slavery. They will always be the party of racism because it's in their DNA. They like to sell that that there was a switch somewhere along the line where the Republicans migrated to the South, and because they became racist or whatever. No. The Republicans migrated to the South because the southern states, even though they were defeated in the Civil War, still maintained that they had states' rights. They were the true patriots of the Union. The Democrat Party went north, decided that it was a better idea to try to control slavery on a larger scale by enslaving everybody. So they started writing policies as elected officials. They instated minimum wage. They I am just going to refer you to the to Dinesh D'Souza's The Big Lie. There will be a link in the description to it because he says it so much better than I could. But essentially, through policy, through government policy, and through a government-run education system, the Democrats successfully enslaved a major part of the nation. Candace Owens calls it the New Plantation. And the slaves are not just black. They're Caucasian, they're Mexican. They are African American. They are the working middle class that do everything that they can to provide for their family. But every time they try to get ahead, the government throws a curveball at them and taxes them a little bit more. This time around, it's through inflation. And the blame falls on the Democrat Party, namely Joe Biden. Anna Perez did a episode of her show Wrong Think, and in this show she highlights all the things that Donald Trump called out of the deep state as far as being involved in child sex trafficking. I did not realize this stuff was going on. I think once you actually hear this, see it come out of Donald Trump's mouth, you might realize why the 2020 election was actually stolen and why no Democrat should ever be allowed to run again. So let's get into this.
This country is headed and where this is headed. And a lot of the predictions I made in this rant actually wound up being true. I predicted that Donald Trump would make trafficking a big part of his campaign, and that's why they're scared of him. I was correct. He has made human trafficking a big part of that. But anyways, without further ado, guys, here is the time that I broke the internet.
All right, so now I'm going to take a breath, and this is where I get paid for sitting here and just listening to you, because I'm not going to say much because you've got a few things to say. I'm going to tee it up this way. Jeffrey Epstein, pedophiles, Trump, deep state, all of the stuff, you're going to weave it all together, take it away. You have 18 minutes on the clock.
No, well, look, you know I've theorized for a while that the deep state was protecting pedophiles. That was a theory that I had based off of a few dots I had connected early on. But now we're hearing it because the National Pulse does some great reporting on stuff like this. They just reported an article saying that the judge likely behind Mar-a-Lago raid is Bruce Reinhart, and he happens to be an Epstein-linked Obama donor. So when that came out, I wasn't particularly surprised, but I was like, this definitely falls in line with what I've theorized over the years. And before we move on, I want to explain how National Pulse came to this conclusion, essentially. So Politico sent out a morning email. So Politico was the reason why we were able to point the finger to Bruce Reinhart, and this is what it says. Who signed the warrant? A source said FBI agents obtained a search warrant from a federal magistrate judge in West Palm Beach. Report Miami Herald's Alex Rorty, Michael Wilner, and Jay Weaver. According to its website, the West Palm Beach location of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida has 3 magistrates: Judge Bruce Reinhart, Judge William Matthewman, and Judge Ryan McCabe. The court's online database shows 2 recent warrant applications, both assigned to Reinhart, were entered into its system on Monday, though information about the targets of those warrants is sealed. So we're looking at Judge Reinhardt right now, and just to give you a little bit of background about who this man is, as the National Pulse pointed out, is that according to the National Pulse, as reported by the Miami Herald, Judge Reinhardt began representing Epstein's employees on January 2nd, 2008, just one day after departing the U.S. Attorney's Office, where he served as an assistant U.S. attorney closely involved on the convicted pedophile's case, accused of leveraging, quote, inside information about Epstein's investigation to curry favor with Epstein. In 2011, he was named as the prosecutor who allegedly violated the rights of an underage girl whom Epstein solicited sex from in the Crime Victims' Rights Act lawsuit. Reinhardt appears to have exploited his role in the U.S. Attorney's Office to launch a private criminal defense practice. So we are looking at a man who was behind this warrant to raid Mar-a-Lago, who is basically supportive of, he supported Jeffrey Epstein, he supported evidently his employees. He claims to have no connection to Jeffrey specifically, although, you know, considering it was all in Jeffrey Epstein's world, that's a little hard to believe.
Right.
But I also want to bring up that he donated twice to Obama's campaign in 2008, totaling $2,000. Reinhardt, who was appointed U.S. magistrate in March 2018, also donated to of Trump rival Jeb Bush in 2015. So that kind of brings up the point about how the establishment is also in bed with the deep state. Well, they're in bed with Reinhardt, obviously, who is in bed with the deep state, obviously, now, because he's behind the raid in Mar-a-Lago, allegedly.
You're starting to connect some dots here.
And so, but then it gets more interesting, because while they're more than happy to go after Trump and Mar-a-Lago, of course, they still haven't gone after Epstein's documents. And we do know that the Epstein documents have been unsealed, yet the FBI appears to have literally no interest in further investigation.
Right.
And that's kind of where we're at right now. Now, I think that Trump ultimately wanted to run for president because he saw what was going on in the wealthy elite circle and he wanted to expose them. His original intent was to expose these pedophiles. So what the left likes to argue is that, oh, Trump's a pedophile too. He was also doing the same stuff Jeffrey Epstein was. Well, was he really? Well, here, let's look at some of their evidence for that. So they're saying basically that because Trump was on the plane one time in the past, the president has also spoken highly of Epstein before, and allegations surfaced of his child sex abuse. He said, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy, he's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Okay, wait a second. That means absolutely nothing. When Trump says he likes beautiful women, he's talking about 20-year-olds, not 15-year-olds.
Absolutely.
And by the way, let's just go a little further than that, because also right before 2008, which is when Jeffrey Epstein was, of course, connected to all the allegations of sexual abuse came out. That's Trump said that. It was before he was aware of all of this. Not to mention, he banned him from Mar-a-Lago when he found out all about that. When he found out that essentially Epstein had been assaulting an underage girl allegedly at Mar-a-Lago, Trump banned him.
That's right.
So he had no ties to him after that. Another piece of evidence that the left likes to point to tie Trump to Epstein is that there was a picture of him. You know, they had a picture together. That's literally, that means nothing. You have pictures of you and Obama together.
Exactly.
All that means is that, which is we already knew, Trump ran in similar wealthy circles as Jeffrey Epstein. That doesn't mean he has any ties to him.
Right.
So what we're looking at is the left trying to point at Trump saying, oh no, he was doing the same thing as Epstein, because they're trying to stop Trump from actually exposing all of what's happening with Epstein.
Right.
I think what really happened is the deep state, this is another threat from the deep state against Donald Trump so that he doesn't expose pedophiles. That's what I really believe is going on here. And we know this because Trump, along the campaign trail in 2015 and in 2020, has pointed out, you know, he's dropped hints about this. I want to play a clip that Trump mentioned in 2016, or right on the campaign trail, about Epstein Island. Here's what he had to say about the Clintons and Epstein Island. Here it is.
Bigger issue. Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
Barack Obama.
Gosh. Yeah.
He couldn't remember.
He knows.
Trump is getting death threats that we don't even know about. He is being threatened by groups of people we don't even know about that obviously want to protect pedophiles. They know that Trump will expose them. And so that's why he had to preface it with, nice guy, but he's got a lot of problems with that certain island, Epstein Island. So Trump knew about it at this point. He wanted to expose them. Obviously, at this point, what you have to understand about these pedophile rings and these pedophiles is that these satanic cults, these abuse practices, the veins run deep. It's not just in the United States; it's worldwide.
You've been doing a lot of
with.
research on
I
this.
have. I've been covering this for about an entire year. You could find out more information on Common Sense. I cover this topic a lot, but these pedophile rings run very, very deep. Okay, so these are a connection of wealthy elites from around the world that are all involved in this, and that's why it's so hard to expose them, because they will threaten your life.
Yeah.
And who knows what kinds of threats Trump is getting. So he's dropping these hints along the way. That was earlier on. That was his first run for president. But I want to play a clip that was more recent. This was in 2020. I'm sure a lot of you heard this already firsthand when it was happening. But here's his conversation with Savannah Guthrie about QAnon. This is really interesting.
Oh, we don't have it quite yet. But
okay, we don't have it quite yet. But essentially, Savannah Guthrie tries to call him out on supporting QAnon. She tries to say, "Oh, you supported QAnon." Oh, it's ready. We'll cue it up now.
Let me ask you about QAnon. It is this theory that Democrats are a satanic ring and that you are the savior of that. Now, can you just once and for all state that that is completely not true and that disavow QAnon in its entirety?
I know nothing about QAnon.
I just told you.
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact. I hate to say that. I know nothing about it. I do know they are very much pedophilia. They fight it very hard, but I know nothing about it.
They believe it is a satanic cult run by the deep
study
state.
The subject. I'll tell you what I do know about. I know about Antifa, and I know about the radical left, and I know how violent they are and how vicious they are, and I know how they're burning down cities run by Democrats, not run by Republicans.
Republican Senator Ben Sasse said, quote, QAnon is nuts, and real leaders call conspiracy theories conspiracy theories.
He may be
Why not
right.
just say it's crazy and not true?
He may be right. I just don't know about QAnon.
You do know.
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know.
Let me ask you another thing.
Let's waste a whole show. You start off with white supremacy. I denounce it. You start off with something else. Let's go. Keep asking me these questions.
I do have one more in this vein.
Let me just tell you, what I do hear about it is they are very strongly against pedophilia. And I agree with that. I mean, I do agree with that, and I agree with it very strongly.
But there's not a satanic pedophile
I have
cult
no idea. I know nothing
You don't
about
know that? Okay.
No, I don't know that.
Just this
neither
week.
do you know that.
Okay, just this week
Why aren't you asking me about Antifa? Why aren't you asking me about the radical left?
Because you're
Why aren't
volunteering
you asking Joe Biden questions about why doesn't he condemn Antifa? Why does he say it doesn't exist?
Because you're
Antifa, no, she's so cute.
She's up in a lather, by the way, but anyhow.
What a dumb woman. Of course there are satanic cults that are running this. Of course there's child abuse. Of course there's pedophiles everywhere in the government. And guess what? The mainstream media is protecting them too, and that's why she feels the need to ask him these questions. Well, guess what? Trump wouldn't, he would not basically say that that wasn't true, because he knows it's true. And he knows that, and he even said it himself, he was basically supporting QAnon by saying, hey, I hear they're against pedophiles, so am I. Because he knows, and that was another hint he was dropping to us. A lot of people are saying, yeah, we knew that those parts, but guess what? This is all part of the puzzle that I'm trying to put together here, which is that the deep state, ultimately this past raid of Mar-a-Lago, it's a threat.
Right.
It's a threat because they don't want him to expose the pedophiles that he knows about.
Right.
And that's what impeachment was about. That's what the Russia hoax was about. That's what that's what January 6th was about. That's why they planted all those people from the FBI there.
That's right.
Because they wanted to make Trump look like he's some domestic terrorist, like he's some insurrectionist.
Right.
It was a threat. It was a threat from the deep state.
Right.
They're coming after him, and it's because they don't want him to expose the pedophile. And you know what? He hasn't really yet. He hasn't. He's dropped
really
hints, but he hasn't fully exposed them yet. What will be interesting is to see if in 2024, if he runs again, or even if he doesn't run again, if he does decide to do that. I mean, if you think about it, why would Trump give up his comfortable multimillionaire lifestyle where everybody loves him, people are, getting along with him just fine, and he decides to run for president in 2016 and everybody hates him, or 2015, and everybody hates him, and the media hates him, the establishment's against him. Why do you think that was? They didn't actually care about the way he spoke. They didn't actually care about the things that he said. They didn't care about his rhetoric. No, they cared about what he could do to them. They cared about what he knew. And they couldn't send a hitman to kill him because he was too famous.
Well, I don't even know where to begin. Let me just say this. I 100% agree that Donald Trump, that this was part of the calculus for running. There's no doubt about it. What percentage of the calculus? I don't know. You don't know. No one knows for sure. But 100%. And the other part of it is the reason, because there's some people were saying, yeah, we knew some of this already. Well, hold on. No, we actually didn't until yesterday.
Yeah.
When the judge came out, or we found out that this judge is indeed linked to Epstein, which of course we know the FBI and the deep state raid, and here we go. And so that was the kind of the
real kicker
the
here was
dot.
the fact that this Bruce Reinhart judge was linked to Jeffrey Epstein, and he was behind the warrant to search Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
So that's the kicker here. That's why you can now put all these puzzle pieces together. I mean, yes, you're right. We knew about Jeffrey Epstein. We know the FBI won't go after him. We know the FBI won't go after the Clintons. That is all very much true. But when you put it all together, the picture becomes a lot clearer. And to your point, yeah, we don't know exactly. There are many, many reasons why Trump probably chose to run for president.
Sure.
But probably the scariest, the most threatening one to the left, and not necessarily the left, but the entertainment industry, these elites, these people who are, you know, all in bed with the deep state because they're protecting these you know, satanic cults, these pedophile rings, very powerful ring of people. That was the most threatening reason.
Yeah.
The fact that he had the potential to go after pedophiles, and he obviously wanted to. He was dropping all those hints. But I am worried that the establishment is going to get the best of him if he runs again in 2024. I hope it doesn't. After what I saw with Greitens, I was a little disappointed in him, I'm not going to lie. But I hope he has what it takes to pursue it further and really drop the truth on this pedophile situation.
For sure. Here, you really did a great job laying it out. I mean that. I really do. Here's the thing. The devil's advocate argument is going to be, okay, great. So these are all pedophiles. Where's the evidence? Well, that's the point. The point is that you've got big business, big politics, if you will, big media, all of them, legacy and all, not doing the research. Where's the 60 Minutes story on this? You know, where is Don Lemon doing this? Forget all that. Forget all that stupid stuff. How about just investigative journalism? It's not being done. You've been doing it at Common Sense since really your show started. You just did it here, and there is nothing wrong with, especially in today's day and age, for sure, questioning authority and questioning everyone, because really we know nothing based on the fact that they've given us no reason to believe anything.
Well, that's what I have for today. My name is Anatoly Anichlisva. This is Patriots Must Rise. If you like the content, we are crowdfunded. The QR code up in the right-hand corner is to our PayPal account. So please donate and help us keep us going. There is no research notes for this particular video because it's all basically commentary on what's readily available on the news. So until next time, live free, die well. Love your neighbor as Christ has loved you.